of imagination with innovation that leads to a revolution. Innovation and entrepreneurship are seen as two important pillars of development of a sector and any economy in general. The 12th Five-Year Plan 2012-17 has recommended the Telecom Finance Corporation be created to enable the debt-ridden industry to access credit easily. The discussion will revolve around the reasons why the ICT industry is in need of entrepreneurs and innovators, scope for entrepreneurs and the challenges faced by them, whether the focus should be on the upcoming business model or the already existing models. With this idea in mind, we introduce the topic for our first panel discussion of the day: accelerating innovation, paving the way for thought leaders in the competitive environment.
To control the flow of dialogue, I would like to call upon the chairperson for the panel discussion, Mr. Hemant Joshi, partner, Deloitte Haskins & Sells. I would request sir to kindly come up on the stage. We welcome you, sir, to SITM.
I now like to take this opportunity to invite our next esteemed panelist, Mr. Chandan Ghosh, founder, owner, and mentor, Chandan Ghosh Consulting. We welcome you, sir, to Communicate 13.
Now I would like to call upon our next panelist, Mr. Siva Ramamurthy, Director Marketing, VMware South Asia. We welcome you, sir, to SITM.
Our next distinguished panelist is Mr. Munish Chatrat, partner, Leader Consulting and Markets, Mazars. Sir, SITM welcomes you to Communicate 13.
Now I would like to call upon the panel, Mr. Avnish Dutt, Director Global Sales, Orange Business Services. We welcome you, sir, to Communicate 13.
Our next distinguished panelist is Mr. Nitin Bhandari, Associate Vice President, New Products and Partnerships, Vodafone India Limited. Sir, SITM welcomes you to Communicate 13.
Next, I would like to call upon the panel, Mr. Anil Nama, Chief Information Officer, Control S Data Centers Limited. Sir, we welcome you to SITM.
Our final esteemed panelist is Mr. Amit Srivastav, Assistant General Manager, Avatus. Sir, we welcome you to SITM.
I would request the chairperson, Mr. Hemant Joshi, to initiate the discussion.
You want me to do it from here or from there?
No, sir, from-
Okay. Good afternoon. So one of the objectives which we have set for ourselves on this panel is to meet the time. So we will finish the panel discussion strictly within 1 hour that has been allotted. Unfortunately, out of the 1 hour, 10 minutes has gone in the introduction, so that leaves us 50 minutes. So what we plan to do is we'll have a discussion for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and leave 15 minutes for question answers. Remember, friends, it is your session. So make maximum use of interacting with some of the industry leaders here and get maximum benefit of this interaction. So maximum time we would like you to spend on interacting. We'll give you some data points and trends and some issues to think, but remember, interaction will enhance your knowledge. So with this, let me come straight to the panel. The theme is accelerating innovation, paving the way for thought leaders in a competitive environment. It's a rather long thing, but no problem. So first thing is, I think, let me begin. We are in a telecom platform. We are talking of innovation. We are in a telecom school. We are in I think I read somewhere it's a knowledge city or knowledge center of symbiosis. So who do you think, or what was the biggest invention in telecom? Yeah, loudly. Somebody said mobile. What else? Radio, yeah. What else? I'm saying which is the single biggest innovation connected with telecom industry? I think, we need to do some fundamental thinking. Just imagine, can you imagine, what would have happened to this industry if our Aryabhatta was not there? So if Aryabhatta had not come out with zero, we would not have a digital world. And if there was no digital world, I don't know what would have happened to this industry. So I think when we talk of innovation, that was a path-breaking paradigm shift innovation, which Aryabhatta did. I think it was 2,000 years before, 1500, 2,000 years before, which changed the whole paradigm of calculation of mathematics and so on and so forth. Just imagine if Aryabhatta had not put zero, how we would be writing the numbers, lines and lines and lines. So I think we need to keep that in mind. So we are capable of innovating, and we bring path-breaking and paradigm shift innovations. So let me start by giving you some data points. The GSMA, in its research, has pointed out today there are about 9 billion connected devices. 9 billion. And I think the mobile phones are about 6 billion, exceeding the population of the earth. Please remember these data points. I think this is very, very critical. So the mobile phones have exceeded the population of the earth. The connected devices are about 9 billion. They estimate, and I think there is a credible basis for their estimate, that by 2020, you would have 24 billion connected devices. 24 billion connected devices, which will create a business impact of $4.5 trillion. $4.5 trillion. Okay? That is a big data. Out of this $4.5 trillion, $1 trillion approximately will come from savings because of the connected devices. So you guys are on the threshold of a fantastic opportunity. But let me give you the downside. The downside is that in this new world, the old rules will not work. If you look at telecom industry globally, ARPUs are falling. It's a matured industry. In India itself, we have had falling ARPUs, crazy competition, the subscriber acquisition is stagnating, and so on and so forth. And I think that's a global trend, except there are pockets in the world where you see opportunity to increase penetration in Africa and some parts of India and third world and so on and so forth. So what is happening is you're moving from 2, 2.5, edge, 3, 4G, LTE, 5G, 6G, God knows how many Gs. So the technology is moving in the direction. Big data is exploding. Just now, I got an SMS, Google, that idea alone, year on year, when you compare June data, it has grown by 90%. 90%. So these are some big trends. And one last thing I want to put before you. I was talking to an industry leader, a very big leader in IT. And NASSCOM, if you are familiar, has said that Indian IT industry will move from $100 billion to $300 billion by 2020 in about 7 years. Now, there are mixed reactions to this. There are two big things happening. One is mobility and data. Now, because of the mobility and data, there is a counter view that in fact the industry may shrink. The industry may shrink. So you could have a scenario, you have a trend of centralization versus decentralization, and you have, the big growth versus low growth. So when you put that in a matrix, you could have big getting bigger, or the big becoming boutique and cottage industry and so on and so forth. So this is the paradigm in which we are living. So with this sort of background, so on one hand, there are huge opportunities. You pick up any sector. On the other hand, we have this data which indicates that the telecom industry and the IT industry perhaps is stagnating or will shrink. With this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kickstart the panel discussion. So I'll let each panel member give a 1-minute overview of some data points they have to share and what they think of innovation in this industry. So starting with Mr. Chandan, sir. Mr. Koch. 1 minute.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. I have been in telecom practically all my life. I've spent about 22 years in telecom, from products to services to whatever have you, to serve customers, to serve B2B, B2C, whatever. Over the years, what we have actually experienced in the recent few years is an insecurity in the telecom segment due to the influx and the penetration of what we call the knowledge industry, which is actually taken the telecom industry as storm. And today we heard words like dumb pipes, marginalized business revenues. These are what we have today, challenging our own existence. I have worked with telcos and started businesses which have grown to billions of dollars in the past with Airtel, Aircel thereafter, before that with British Telecom. Now I'm doing my own consulting and trying to set up, which is already on the way, my own startup. It's an interesting phase in life. What we failed to do as telcos is we didn't look at transformation which was absolutely sure to come about. When we had the chance of getting into data I mean content, we allowed the content to be ruled by somebody else, and we became the deliverers of contents to the consumers of the content.
So we'll come back to you, sir.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bhandari.
Sure. It looks like telcos are being beaten to death since morning. Okay, but there are two trends I wanted to talk about, and while we have heard it in different ways in this forum, but I wanted to give a bit different perspective. The first trend I wanted to talk about is, it's possibly a bold statement, that the future is not about mobile. I don't know how many of you will agree, but the future is not about mobile. You would have heard and seen the Concorde plane. Okay, a few years ago got disbanded because people were no longer, people wanted to travel, they wanted to travel from Europe to US, but they were saving only 2 hours of travel time, and hence it was not worth paying for. So the future is not about mobile, the future is actually about mobility. And it's very similar to saying, in the early days of internet, a lot of people thought, a lot of companies thought that if I was to put a website, it will become a channel into the heart and mind of people, and that did not happen. Only a very few companies succeeded. Same thing in the era of social media. Getting a presence on Facebook or Twitter is easy, but how many companies do we remember who have used Facebook or Twitter as a productive channel, as a means of constant engagement with consumers and their customers? So same way, mobile will kind of become nuts and bolts, and what will provide context and what will provide access to partners and channels will be mobility, and mobile will become just a tool to enable the sales force, to enable payments, transfers, m-commerce, and so on. And a lot of these developments are already happening in various parts of the world, including India. And maybe we'll talk more about it as the discussion goes. There was just one more trend I wanted to talk, and that's about, we would have seen icebergs. Okay, iceberg is made of water. It's a frozen water. When it dissolves, the water is still there, but then we no longer recognize it. So same way, computers are getting dissolved into the environment. It's not that the computers are going away. It is not that the computing power is going away, but it's getting dissolved into the environment. So it's, in a way, it's everywhere around us, be it connected cars, be it the watches we wear. Last year, in 2012, the two most talked about innovation were Nest, that's a thermometer which remotely gives you temperature reading, light reading, activity reading, and so on. And the second was this IBG glucometer. It's a device which you could put on your Apple phone, and it has an applet running in it. You put just one drop of blood and it gives you all the blood glucose reading and so on, and you need not buy any other dedicated devices. So same way, what we will find is the new business models which will evolve out of these trends is going to power possibly the next set of innovations. So these technologies are there. It's all about how do businesses leverage on these, and I guess we'll talk more about it during the course.
So before I come to Shiva, because Shiva destroys all the current paradigms, so Shiva is a destroyer, I would request Anil to share some thoughts he has on innovation. But keep in mind, we want to maintain the time.
Right, so data points I want to speak. I am from a data center industry. It took us first 3.5 years to sell off somewhere close to 850 racks. The next 14 months, we have already sold 1650 racks, which are under production, and another 800 racks of order. From a big data point of view, it took us first 4 years to reach the first petabyte of selling. It has taken us last 3 months to sell the next 2 petabytes of storage on demand. So is there a consolidation happening? Yes, there is a consolidation happening. Is the data exploding? Yes, it is exploding. But the problem which is happening is that now that people know what is the cost of this data, what is the driver of this data, there is once again a pressure on the price points, just like there was a pressure on the ARPU in the mobility. And now once again that innovation engine has started within these circles of data, within these circles of racks, how to bring down the cost.
Thank you. Monish, quick.
Okay, I look after the consulting practice of a French headquartered firm of accountants and consultants. So the French are known to be good artists. So I'd like to paint 3 pictures very quickly. Pictures of 3 men, women, 3 individuals. One is the state of the telecom sector. Now, you've already spoken about some numbers. I'd like to lay particular emphasis on mobile broadband, which is growing at a CAGR of 20% year on year. Now, this is going to create a lot of challenges in terms of the entire back-end supply chain and integration from the beginning till the end in the telecom sector particularly. With these challenges will come opportunities. The second aspect is more in terms of the environment. Green telecom, not necessarily in terms of money. I don't know how many of you are aware of the fact that 2.6% of the carbon dioxide emissions globally are from the ICT sector. Now, with the growth that we are going to be seeing over the next 4 to 5 years, it will be a challenge to maintain this, and obviously it will be a bigger challenge to be able to lower this. The third aspect is, since we are sitting in a university, is about mobile education, where the current size is about $3.5 billion in terms of the industry size. This is expected to grow to 70 billion by 2020. And again, there's a huge opportunity there. So I'll close my comments there, and we'll talk about these in more detail later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Monish. Mr. Amit, can I have?
Sure. All right, thank you. Well, I come from an industry where we usually eat our revenues from the telcos. So it's totally a different aspect of ICT, which we can talk about later on. But just to begin with, I would like to highlight, in 70s or 80s, when IBM was thinking about getting into the leadership of mainframes, Apple was the one which thought about having a PC at every place, at every house. And that's when Windows talked about having an operating system on which all those PCs would be running. So that's the kind of level, or that's the level of thinking what people had when it came to innovation. And that's probably is something what we'll have to think about when it comes to the future things which is going to happen in terms of big data or LTE. All right, so.
Thank you. Yeah. So, Mr. Avnish, your comments.
Yeah, thanks, Hemant. So very quickly, I come from a telecom background, but both consumer and enterprise. And I'm not going to talk about any figures or any trends, but let me just give you a very quick example of a very recent innovation project. So we partnered with an insurance company. And if you are anywhere in Europe and you are a customer of that insurance company and you're driving a car, your next insurance renewal premium is being calculated real time, and you can actually see it on the move. Depending on how many parking tickets are you getting, how many times are you transgressing the speed limits with, wherever you're violating traffic rules, how old you are, and the tagline, they had a funny tagline in the ad which said, if you want your premiums close to zero, drive like a girl. Now that's, no disrespect to the girls here, but that's the tagline. So, internet is in the air. Internet is in the air. That's the theme that we work on. However, let me just finish my piece by attracting your attention to one very, very big problem that companies like ours deal with. It's good to talk about innovation, but we are established behemoths. I mean, for example, we are part of France Telecom, 45 billion euros, very established practices. We have a huge innovation engine. The problem we grapple with is how agile is that? And with your permission, another 30 seconds to cite a very quick example. So we are the leaders in mobile telephony in France and many other markets around Europe. And somebody swept the ground from under our feet 2 years back. They launched a service with the brand name Free, and they got 6% market share within 2 years of launch, which is huge in a mature market. And to add insult to the injury, given that France is a fairly regulated market, they were actually mounting on our infrastructure. So it was really a lot of our costs while they were making money on top of us. When we actually went to our innovation engine, we called that Orange Labs, and we said, what can we do to deal with this? We didn't get a very good answer. The aspect that I'm pointing out is there is an incubation engine of innovation, and then there is a time to market engine of innovation, and it's very important to keep both of them balanced. Right, so I'll just pass.
Thank you. So now I come to the Siva, who will give us some path-breaking, paradigm-shifting thoughts.
Good Lord. So I am assuming all of you are business school students, and you're probably wondering, hey, what is in it for me? How do I make, a good career, good good money, and so forth? I was just like you maybe a few years back, in the US, and there's an interesting statistic I actually want to share with you. A professor did some research on business school careers, 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years down, on people's and correlated the salaries with the companies which they worked for. She looked at it and said, people who worked in innovation index-driven companies, there's something called innovation index, and in the top 100, their salaries were actually a whooping 50% higher compared to people who worked in less innovation-driven industries, right? Does it make you excited? 50% higher salary? It does, right? Good. So, from an innovation viewpoint, right, I think the way I see it is, I also am an angel investor. I invested in a startup which puts solar panels in backpacks. And as I look at innovation, right, I basically see two things in it, right? One is companies who basically have a product or solution-driven innovation, something that's really out of the box, like a Google or so forth. And the second sect, which is equally important, is basically process and efficiency-driven industries, right? And both are equally important, and perhaps if you have some time, we can draw down more on those concepts.
So thank you. I think you have enough data points to understand the need for innovation, because the dumb pipe is perhaps getting dumber. The dumb pipes is allowing others to ride on it, take the cost, and the revenue goes somewhere else. You have big opportunities but big threats. You know, you don't know whether the telco is shrinking, growing, IT is growing, shrinking. So when we get into the details, just keep in mind the 4x4 matrix, 2x2 matrix. You imagine left-hand side you have high growth, you have centralization, you have decentralization. On the top you have high growth, you have low growth. So keep this 2x2 matrix. And let me again say that if you have high growth and centralization, big will become bigger. High growth and decentralization, you will have apps world. Lot of apps. If you have decentralization and low growth, you will have boutique firms. And if you have centralization and low growth, cottage industry. So with this, let me get into the innovation. Why I think why innovation, we have said. What do we innovate? I mean, what is to innovate? So let me give you again some data points. If you pick up the newspapers anywhere in the world, you'll find 4 or 5 key trends. First trend would be related with security, the Snowden and things like that. You have huge data privacy security. The second trend, everywhere there is a challenge in making education, somebody referred, education affordable to the masses. The third big trend is the problem of falling agriculture productivity. There are research reports which indicate that the agriculture production is not keeping in line with the population, and there is going to be a huge food security issue. The fourth trend is the energy security, the whole issue around energy security. And then you have the issues of clean water and clean green environment and so on and so forth. So if you just do a research of the papers, the leading newspapers, magazines across the world, you will find this 5 or 6 discussion topics everywhere. And then there is a further research going on in terms of leveraging technologies to solve some of the problems in a very basic manner. For example, in India, the accidents, as a country, due to accidents, we lose more than 1 lakh crores. That's over 30 billion, depending on what rate of exchange you use. And the number of accidents per day is equivalent to 1 jumbo jet crashing every day. I'm talking of the accidents on the road. Now, this is a real problem. Is there a technology solution? I think there are technology solutions. That's where innovation will come in. So I think with this sort of background, let's kickstart the scope of innovation. So I'll start with Nitin. Nitin, what is your perspective? What are you as a company believe, and what are you doing in this?
Sure. And the question is specifically about what Vodafone is doing in this space? Or?
What should be the scope of innovation?
Sure. So,
Keeping in mind the telecom.
I know. Okay. So my view, the scope of innovation, while innovates infinite, I would want to look at it from a different angle. And many of you will enter the corporate world very soon and would want to make it big. So how do you succeed? So while innovation could be in processes, products, the way you approach the market and so on, but how do you succeed? And the 2 examples I wanted to give, and I guess almost everybody here will be able to relate to those 2 examples. The first is about Kaun Banega Crorepati. So when Star TV originally launched it, they decided that the competition for them was not other soap operas, was not about TRPs. Rather, they said the most watched TV things in India is cricket. So if they can beat cricket, if there's a cricket match going on a particular day and if KBC is going at the same time, if there are more people watching KBC, that is a success factor. Okay, and they actually did it just with the first series. Same thing many years ago was done by Ramayana, and most of you will remember that even if there's a wedding going on, they will install a TV so that people can go and watch Ramayana. A similar thing played in media, I think mostly in the north part of India, when Dainik Bhaskar launched themselves and they said, we want to be in maximum number of cities, not in 2 years or 4 years, but on day one. They did a simultaneous launch, and on day one, they were amongst the most widely read Hindi newspapers in the country, and prior to that, they were never there. So it's about creating that history challenge in any form of innovation, that is what could really create a lot of money for yourself, for the company, and for the country as a whole.
Thanks, Nitin. I can't resist coming to Avnish. I think he comes from a European sort of global background. So, Avnish, what do you think, based on the challenges we have in this country and the global experience, what could be the scope of innovation? There are two things. I think one is the product innovation related with telecom and IT, and I think we are not going to discuss too much of that. But the bigger chunk where the money will really come is the apps and the applications of this innovation.
Right. Thanks, Aman. So, leads me to a cultural change that we went through in innovation. French are cultural people, but for them, their culture is supreme. So that lends a certain character to them, the way they do business, the way they innovate. So some of you might actually be familiar with this. There is something called open innovation, which comes under a lot of discussion because you tend to then, the ring fencing around your intellectual property dilutes a little bit. But that is what we are doing now. We are engaging with academia outside of France Telecom. We are engaging with OTT providers, for example. So what we are doing is we are co-opting the entire ecosystem into innovation. And there is a full directorate for open innovation, building bridges with academia, building bridges with like-minded companies, with the smaller players, and with players who only focus on innovating either in our core space or contiguous spaces. Now, it is a cultural change, but it is coming through, and we can already see the advantages, coming as a result of it.
Yeah, so one of the things which you need, and all of us need to keep in mind, all this is possible because there is telecom. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, very good point.
All this is possible, whatever, time to market or, having open innovations, connectivity, group innovations, because telecom is a great enabler. Can I come to you, Shiva, on, what do you think should be the scope of innovations?
Sure. I actually would like to kind of just take our first kind of like an out-of-box thinking, right? Two classical examples of product and, or two simple examples of product and solution innovation, which I recently witnessed is, how many of you like to go in a train where the train goes this way and your seat is facing the other way? It's a pretty bad experience, right? You don't really like it because it makes you dizzy, etc. Sydney has a fantastic public transportation system, and the chairs, the seats in the train, you could actually shift. Like if the train is going this way, you could just with a simple shift of a lever, you can go from this side to the other side. Fantastic, a simple product innovation, which really makes a huge difference in people's quality of transportation. A second example, which I really was fascinated by, how many of you have heard of this simple brand of cotton white shirts called Ramraj Cotton? It's kind of pure white shirts, very basic, 300 rupees, 250 rupees kind of white shirt. And the problem statement they have in their point of sale is, it's a very, very white shirt. Even if you touch it once, it loses its value because it's so pure, so white. So what they did is, to sell that white shirt, they put a little, they with every shirt they try to sell, they close the shirt completely so you can't touch the shirt, but people want to feel the shirt, right? So they have a little piece of clothing which they attach with that, which people can touch and feel. And by doing this, they're able to save a lot of money in the sales process. Two excellent examples of innovation, right? So I'll just come back to my core product, cloud computing, right? So if you look at the telecom and ICT industry, right, cloud computing is a phenomenal disruptive phenomena, right? I mean, if you look at starting a startup today, 10 years ago, you had to buy the hardware, you had to put the dabba, you had to put the software and do everything. Right now, you just buy cycles. You do a private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, whatnot, and just start right now on day one. Phenomenal innovation.
And I think this is a very, very important thing because you're seeing a trend from CapEx to OpEx. Everything is moving from CapEx to OpEx, and that enables startups to, afford these technologies. So we'll continue the discussion. Dr. Mr. Ghosh, what are your thoughts? You have seen the telecom world, you have seen the growth of the industry in India, and you've seen. I mean, can you imagine that just maybe 15 years before, 20 years before, 15 years before, you had to wait months to get a telephone connection, months, and today, it's on the tap. So your thoughts on what should be the scope of innovation, more particularly now that network is built, and what is the next step?
One big change that has actually taken place due to innovation, like Shiva said, is cloud computing. That's one. From the telecom space, it created a sea change. The other thing is outsourcing. Outsourcing was a major change. If we had not adapted to outsourcing, the telcos would have been doing IT services, not finding the right kind of people to serve themselves and serve their customers, and yet not have been able to retain the people who would have served the customers. That's one. Think of one thing. The most important job that is available in the market for youngsters today, and one of the best paying ones, are apps developers. This didn't exist 10 years ago.
Very good point.
This just didn't exist 10 years ago. And it is related to IT, telecom, data, content, knowledge, everything. It ties everything down to the terminal device, to the storage, cloud, everything put together. That's innovation.
So, just to sort of, I can't resist adding that if you are going to, today you have 9 billion devices connected. It's going to become 24. And you have apps. And assuming, just imagine, even if you get a few rupees per app, the download or per usage or whatever model that evolves, you see the numbers. So I think apps, going to that matrix, if you're going to have a high growth and a decentralized system, which is, coming with the handheld and other devices, apps is going to be the king. And that's the future. And I think this is again, there are very few entry barriers for apps development. And I think if there is a time, maybe we can discuss that. But in terms of the scope, let me ask you, Monish, you are with the large consulting firm. What do you see? I mean, what should be the scope? Have you seen something across the globe which could be relevant?
Yeah. I personally feel that we will see over the next 2 to 3 years a lot of introspection because we are working in a very difficult market. It is completely unprecedented, the sort of challenges that the telecom sector, the ITC sector on a larger scale is seeing. A new scenario is emerging, which is going to be completely different to what we've seen earlier. So to your specific point, I expect there to be a lot of introspection. I expect there to be a lot of integration. I expect there to be a lot of consolidation. And I think these 3 aspects are particularly important for the sector to grow.
Yeah, Amit, any thoughts on the scope, where the future could be and what could be the scope for innovation?
Okay.
Telecom, ICT. It's very difficult to see which is which.
No, see, one part to innovation is improving upon the current technology, current application, current system. But the major part, what we can still do, keeping in mind the current ICT, what we have, or the systems, what we have in place, is innovating on our thought process. If I can give an example of Gujarat, nothing to promote Narendra Modi, but still, as you all know that every state has an entry and exit tax. Somebody has to pay for that. And what used to happen was that whenever something is entering the state, people used to pocket money and allow the trucks to go inside. Now, what they did was at each and every checkpoint, they had a camera installed which would transmit the number plate details to a centralized location. Along with that, a weighing machine which would give the weight of the goods what they're carrying. So they all know that what was the expected amount of revenue they could have earned. So this was just an out-of-box thinking using the current process or the technology what we have in place, nothing else to innovate, just to innovate on your thought process. That's one part to it.
Very, very good example. And Anil, you mentioned about data and terabytes and tetrabytes and megabytes and whatever those bytes are. Any thoughts on keeping this in mind? Where are we heading in terms of scope of innovation? What's happening?
So as we see it, the problem that we are facing now is, we have already heard that there are innovation engines which are there in the companies, there are idea gates, we have processes in and around it. The requirement as on date is to have innovation at a concept level. All the existing literature or all the existing people that I could find in the market, with all due respects, they are all within the boundaries of a product and trying to research within that product line. The out-of-the-way innovations that we have heard, this is not a trend. As a trend, we are getting from the people. So as students, you should concentrate more and more on how these macro trends or the numbers that have been spoken to at a conceptual stage, what will it lead to in incubation? And then what is the market for that? That is the missing link in each of these industries, whether we take the mobile industry, whether we take the telecom industry or the data center or the ISP. That concept level incubation, going after the business agility, the business problems, and being able to resolve it at least at a concept level so that it could be floated and you have acceptance of that idea within the constituents is the missing link that we see today.
Right. So thank you. So, as promised, maximum time or significant time would be for you. So we're going to, sort of close the discussion here. There are some things we want to talk about, business models and challenges. And on a business model, I'll just leave two thoughts with you. If, maybe if many of you are from this generation who have never seen a travel booking agent. But there used to be an animal called travel booking agent. So you go to the agent and he will, get you a ticket. You go there and pay. Today it's not there. So perhaps you cannot relate with what we are saying. So the business model just changed and it's vanished. So there's intermediation, which was there, is giving, it's replaced by disintermediation. What it means in simple language is the consumer and the provider of service or goods are connecting with each other directly. So the middleman is vanishing breed. So the business model, the disruption is coming through cloud and big data and social media and so on and so forth. We don't have time, but I would now leave the floor open to the questions. Yeah. So make it crisp and precise so that everybody gets a chance.
Okay. Good afternoon, panelists. My name is Swapnil Sunekar. I am from SITM, Systems and Finance. Recently, Department of Telecom has come up with mergers and acquisition guidelines and policies that will be on 15th of October. My question is, how are these policies, delaying policies, are going to hamper the innovation growth in India especially?
Boss, forget what the government is going to do. It is not in your hand. Don't waste your time trying to figure out what the government should do or should not do. This is beyond this. If we focus our time, we will sit back and say, "Ye nahi hua, isliye kuch nahi kar sakte." To give you a short answer, forget government. You focus on doing what you have to do. Yeah, can we go to the next one? Yeah.
So we're talking about innovation, but there's this thing that I read a few. Is there anybody else? Okay. There's this thing about innovation that I read a few days ago. Was it has to be released at the right time, right? So if there's an innovation, maybe you're releasing it way before everybody's caught up with you, or you're late or something. So how do you know it's the correct time for you to launch your innovation into the market?
You never know. So you have an animal called social media now. You can gauge through social media. If you look at the history of innovation products which have worked and failed, Xerox and so many case studies I think you may have studied, you know, what you say is right. The time has to come. But you never know. You never know the right answer. You can make a reasonable prediction. And social media is a good to gauge the perceptions. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Oh, no. Yeah, thanks. I think that's a very relevant question and hooks back to something that we are trying to do at France Telecom. So we've got Orange Labs, which is the innovation engine, and we are trying to create a model called Innovation ROI. Now, return on innovation investment is not something which is very easy to get your arms around. You know, it is, by its very nature, it's unpredictable. If it was predictable, it wouldn't have been in the realm of innovation. But here is what we are doing. We have got innovation is being done for business. So there is a funding model where the businesses lay out a part of their revenues every year, and that goes to the Innovation Lab. Now, Innovation Lab has the responsibility to be in direct contact with the business and keep presenting the projects and their future and see what should be the market readiness plan for that project. So, you know, if there is another opportunity, I'll probably inform you on how that's going. We're just starting off on that yet.
Can I just add another quick comment on that? I think from an entity's standpoint, whenever you innovate and come up with a new product, you've got to look at three important aspects in the stage of the development of that product or acceptance of the product. So you've got the novelty stage, you've got the sort of acceptance stage, and you have the rejection stage. So you need to be very, very clear as a company in terms of when are you going to launch the next product. And when is it that you're moving from the novelty stage to the acceptance stage and from the acceptance stage to the rejection stage? While bearing in mind that there are competitive forces and somebody else may also be coming up with something similar. I mean, I can talk a little bit more about this, but probably we can have the discussion after the panel discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, please. I think we'll give preference to students if you don't mind.
Excuse me, can I ask a question? Hello?
Yeah. Where are you? Sorry. No, I would give preference to students, please.
Sure.
It's their program. You and I can have offline, or we can have offline. Students, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, panel. My name is Sumit Lale. Actually, I was talking about innovation. So, when we are talking about innovative technologies that are coming to market, let's say 2G, 3G, 4G, they are coming. Some business models attached to these technologies. So, if I'm talking about the OTT and the business model, they came up in past 2-3 years, and now it has been getting heavy on the operator's business model. So, where I don't think so that there is a gap in the adaptation of innovative technologies, and innovation is not happening in telecommunication. But what about the business processes that is attached into a technology adaptation? So don't you think there is some gap between the business process actually, which has actually been hampering the business model of this current operator? And now OTT players are actually now sitting on their business model and earning the revenue. So what is your comment about it?
So let me answer it. So while a telco is known as, let's say, operating a telecom service, but if I look at Vodafone and one of the problems which we are attacking at this moment is in India you have got within the country you have got a huge migratory labor, okay, which moves from the eastern part of India to western part, works for a few months at a construction site and so on. A huge problem for them is transferring money back home because their families are back home. Okay, so they've got two problems. One is they don't transfer money through the regular banking channels because they don't happen to have bank accounts. Secondly, either they send money with somebody who is traveling back home, and then there is a huge transaction charge of 8 to 10% and so on. So so while we are a telco, we went ahead and launched M-Pesa. Which is not focused on consumers like you and me. Rather, a big part of it is focused on how can I help these laborers do a small size ticket transaction. Now, one could do small size ticket transactions using ATM cards and so on, but the cost of transaction is high. We already have the network in place. It's not just about OTTs trying to innovate. world over, telcos are moving into new models. So in this case, you can very well say we have actually moved into banking, and the Vodafone subsidiary which does this business holds a banking license. Okay, so it's pretty much we are doing banking, and somebody may say, why are banks not adopting this and able to transfer? So it's like I was saying earlier with the example of KBC and Dainik Bhaskar, the competition is not just really next door. It's a pretty wide open space, and one could always look at the services to go into. So similarly, when it comes to machine, the Mahindra Reva car, which was launched recently, and it happens to have so what you can do is, using a smartphone, you can open the door, you can switch on the engine, you can switch on the AC, you can also move to the reserve power, all using a smartphone. But that technology inside it is enabled by Vodafone, and we are not into car industry at all.
Yes, sir, but this is actually talking about moving to the different market segment. But what about the social media? Actually, today's world is all about social. If you are socially present, then actually you are in the market and you are playing well. So why operator is not actually in the social media and they are allowing this OTT player to play their game there?
Yeah, please, Mr. Ghosh.
Couple of things. I'll not answer your question directly, okay? Innovation actually is a non-incumbency attack. What is existing, it changes for the better for customer experience. So it's always got to change towards customer experience. Okay. Your question originally was, why did the OTTs get the benefit which the telcos did not? That is where the question actually emerged right from the beginning. If you look at India or most part of the world, telco is basically has emerged from incumbency businesses. They were monopolistic. Most of the people who also joined new licenses that were given out were people taken from these companies. All that they could think of was command and control and be monopolistic in their nature. Okay? It is only when then the internet companies came into being, or the OTT companies came into existence, that they started feeling the chills of the pain that they could lose the revenues and the business, and that's when the customer experience actually started coming in. Innovation need not have huge spends. It needs only small tweaking. Okay? It can come from you and me and anybody, that I make life easier for anybody who's going to use my product and services. It did not be a multi-billion-dollar innovation or an invention that has to go into equipment, or it can be a change. Like you also said about the word processes and subsystems. You did mention that. Yes, processes and systems changes can actually change the way a customer experiences the services, and that itself could be innovation. Okay, so innovation could come about from anywhere. So keep your minds open, keep it young, keep it fresh, to think on behalf of the customer to deliver innovation. Don't think like a service provider that this is going to take more work, this is going to take far, far more money to deliver this. It need not have to be very large, very big. It can be making small changes in your life, easier changes, happy changes. Okay?
Yeah, I think, thank you, good question, but we need to give chance to others, Yeah. Yeah, the organizers, I'm going to use my time properly. So 10 minutes you spend time introducing us, which I had said no. So I'm going to, run it 10 minutes more. So the penalty is on you.
Sir, this is Suvarna from Systems First Year. I would like to ask, we are talking about innovations. Now, as we have seen that researchers are predicting that the healthcare apps are being serving about 4,000 millions by 2016. Are operators looking as healthcare apps as a killer app to as a new revenue generation model for now?
I think the question should be which operators are not looking at it. Because you see, you have my friend from Telcom is there, the service provider. Today the pipe is dumb. How do you extract value? You extract value when you have content, where you have a share of the pie of the content, share of the pie related to the content. And the content is, what are the 4 or 5 problems? Healthcare, education, banking we have in this country. So everything will come around this. Yeah, you want to comment something?
So very true. So an operator will not start operating the hospitals. What operator will do is make these hospitals intelligent. And some of the pilot projects where we are involved, what we are doing is your multi-specialty hospitals are primarily in large cities, only in metros. Even 100 kilometers away, you will not really find a good hospital. But people are ready to pay. People do have money. I think the issue is they have to travel 100 kilometers to see a specialist. So now using telecom, if you could get a person in the village to sit with a local doctor and get his X-rays and everything else, get beamed onto the specialty hospital with a high resolution, he could and get him on the video conference. Yes, and if you could get all this integrated, that's a big benefit for citizen of the country as well as for hospitals, and you don't really need to spend much more money in creating these hospitals everywhere. So what we are doing is creating this the so-called intelligent dump pipe, okay,
Yes.
which should recognize that this is a healthcare application, and hence a few bits and bytes of mistakes in an X-ray can really cause a lot of harm. So when it's an X-ray application, it is X-ray. Whereas if it is a photograph of this all being beamed and a few bits and bytes go wrong, nothing happens. So we are actually involved in creating these the so-called intelligent dump pipe, and it's all about how various industries will use it for their own benefit.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So again, coming back to the fact that most of you are business school students and you're probably looking to see how can I align and how can I benefit from that. So Nitin talked about a problem statement, which is how do I make a dump pipe into an intelligent pipe? A couple of very important technologies from a telecom viewpoint are basically what's called as mass personalization, and also at a dabba level, basically deep packet inspection, right? Which is pretty important. It's got negative connotations to it, but forget about all that stuff. That's none of your problem. But it's pretty important for you to really understand those technologies. That'll be good learning for you as well. Just my 2 cents.
Amit, you want to say something? No. Okay. Yeah. So we'll move to the next person. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Hurry up. All that is, we know it's good afternoon.
So, what is your take on innovation in the present era?
Sorry?
What is your take on innovation in the present era? Is it something new you have to think, or it is a blend of 2 resources?
Okay, to give you a short answer, think of all the pain points you have. Think of all the pain points the country has. That is where innovation will come from. If you solve that problem, you will make big money. Yes, the lady there.
Sir, what is your take on contractual obligations of innovation in regarding strategic outsourcing? Because each one of you outsource to someone or the other. To each one of you have some vendor.
So I think if I have to rephrase your question, you're talking about IP protection and so on and so forth. Anybody else before? Yeah.
So the way the contracts, if you see in the last decades, they were designed as a fixed cost contracts over a period of time. If you see the latest contracts, even the contracts of Airtel or Vodafone's, they are all based on achieving a results. So the onus is on the strategic outsourcing partner to come up with the benchmarks, to come up with the innovation test beds, and to increase the business, thereby increasing his slice in the total business. So strategic outsourcing contracts, if you see for the last 2 odd years, are aligned to include the innovation as an engine and to have a revenue sharing model in terms of the outcome of those innovation test beds.
Does it answer your question? Okay, we'll give chance to others. Yeah.
Hello, sir. And myself, Smita from Foster System Batch. My question will be very small and crisp. It is that innovation goes by 2 ways. That is by new product, new apps, and new content and cloud. And innovation also goes by the changing the quality of the present telecom scenario, like and more mass penetration, the quality of bandwidth, the quality of connectivity. So what is the need of the hour? Means in case of the telecom scenario, we have to collaborate or we have to go in both way, new product plus connectivity.
So let me give a feel. You know, the head of Cisco. Cisco, you've heard of Cisco?
Yes, sir.
So at GSMA conference last year in Barcelona, the head of Cisco mentioned that in the new emerging scenario, either we all succeed or we all fail. And I think you can do research, because today we are so much interdependent. The telcos are dependent on the service providers, the content providers, the apps developers, and so on and so forth. Either everybody succeeds or everybody fails. And there is a whole